Hey friends, it's Robin. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are finally doing my 2024 5-star predictions. I do these every single year. I think this is like my third, fourth year doing these. And essentially it's just a video where I share the books that are releasing that year that I think are going to be 5 stars for me. If you have watched some of my previous years, you know that I always do really well on these videos. I think in 2023, there were only 3 books on the list that I didn't give 5 stars to, and one of them was a 4-star. And so I decided that this year, I wanted to challenge myself a little bit. In the past, I have tended to put books on the list that are from authors that I already love, or books in series that I already love, and I wanted to test myself a little bit to see if I could find some books that are a little bit outside of the easy choice. And so I put 5 books on this list that are authors that I have never read from before. But because of that, that means that I also increased this list from 12 to 16, because by putting those 5 books on a list of 12, it didn't leave me enough room for all of the books that I had already wanted to put on. So I just increased the list from 12 to 16. Hopefully this year is mildly more challenging, but I do have really high hopes and expectations for all of these books. This list is not ordered in any way, so we are just going to start at the top and work our way through all 16 books. So first up is This Could Be Us by Kennedy Ryan. This is the follow-up to Before I Let Go, and we are following a heroine who is the best friend of the heroine in book 1. This is about her going through a separation. It sounds like her relationship, her marriage ends up blowing up, and she is working through all of that and rediscovering herself and who she is outside of this marriage. And along the way, she ends up like reconnecting with this guy who she shouldn't have a strong attraction to, but does. So it sounds like it's going to be a forbidden romance, all surrounding the heroine going through this like intense breakup and like rediscovering who she is. Kennedy Ryan books are always so emotional, and considering how much I cried in Before I Let Go and how many of my friends have read and loved and cried over this, I definitely think that this is going to be one that I'm going to love and probably shed a lot of tears over. Number 2 is Dawn of Gods and Fury by K.A. Tucker. This is the 4th and final book in the Fate and Flame series, and I am so sad to see this series ending, but I'm so excited for this final book. I need to know how it all ends and how it all comes together. If you've been here for any length of time, you don't need me to pitch this book another damn time, because I talk about this book all the time. But this is a portal fantasy. We're following a heroine who ends up getting sent to this fantasy realm thanks to some meddling gods, and she wakes up in the body of a princess who just murdered the royal family, and now she needs to convince the new king to not kill her because she isn't the murderer. And she is coming into some powers and learning about how and why she is here and who these people are, and it's a damn good time. I love this series. Number 3 is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. I have put, I think, every Ashley Poston book on this list, and they've never been amiss. This is the latest in her like slightly fantastical contemporary romances. This one is following a professor of literature who loves romance, and she takes like a break or vacation or something, and she's supposed to go to this book club, and the friend that she's going with bails on her, and while she is driving on the way to this event, she gets caught in this thunderstorm and has to stop in this like little sleepy town and realizes that she's in a book. And now she is like stuck in this romance book, but the romance book was never finished. Like no one ever finished writing it. And so she's kind of like stuck in time, and she needs to find her way out of this romance book. But the grumpy librarian bookstore owner guy doesn't want the story to have an ending. And so they have a grumpy sunshine romance. Every single Ashley Poston book just blows my mind with how well she integrates the fantastical elements. And they're always like surprisingly emotional. Like there is something in there really hard hitting, and I end up crying in every single one of her books. Number 4 is the first of the new to me authors, and this one is a debut, and that is The Emperor and the Endless Palace by Justinian Wang. This is one of my most anticipated books of the entire year. I'm obsessed with this cover. I'm obsessed with this premise. It's an reincarnation romance fantasy thriller. We're following this couple over like centuries as they are reborn and fall in love and like are ripped apart from each other over and over and over again. And you are learning about why they keep coming together and what their like fated romance, the power that it has and why it keeps happening. So it's kind of all about like fate and undying love, but there is a thriller aspect to it, like a mystery element that they are trying to figure out why it keeps happening. I just think it's such a unique setup and concept and unique mashup of genres. So I feel like this one is either going to be exceptional or very, very strange. Number 5 is A Funny Story by Emily Henry. I've given every single Emily Henry book 5 stars. I say this all the time, but like her humor is just so perfect for me. I think it is absolutely hilarious. We're the same age, we're both elder millennials, and all of like the millennial aspects to her characters just like hit home for me, and I love it. This one is following these two characters who are engaged or a long time dating their partner, and their partners suddenly break up with them and announce that they are becoming engaged to each other. These two end up becoming roommates because the heroine needs a place to stay, and the two of them have a roommate's romance. I'm excited for it. I think Emily Henry books are always great. I always cry in her books too. Number 6 is How You Get the Girl by Anita Kelly. This is a sapphic basketball romance. We're following a heroine who's a girls basketball coach, and she gets a new girl on her team, and that girl's foster parent is an ex-WNBA star. The two of them end up working together to coach this basketball team, and one of the heroines is dealing with like restarting her life after her short-lived career in the WNBA, and the other heroine is kind of going through an identity crisis as she is discovering and learning about her asexuality. This is set in the same world as Love and Other Disasters and Something Wild and Wonderful, and this is the final book in this world, and I am so sad to say goodbye to these characters, but I absolutely cannot wait to see what Anita Kelly does next because I love every single book that they write. Number 7 is Dominating the Diamond, number 3 by Giraldo. This does not have a title yet. It does not have a full synopsis. However, she did tease 4 of her potential upcoming 2024 releases, and they did include like a couple of tropes. So this one is going to be an MFNB romance, and we are following one of the baseball players that we've met. I can't place him based off the last name. I might need to reread to remember who he is, but we don't know who the other characters are yet or if we've met them or anything like that. But this is a rivals to lovers redemption romance. I've loved every single book in the series. Giraldo can do no wrong, in my opinion, and I am sure that this is going to be absolutely fantastic. And side note, she is also planning to release a spin-off in spring based off of Kit, who's in book 2, his younger brother. That one's probably also going to be 5 stars, but I didn't put that one on the list because I didn't want to repeat authors, and I knew that I wanted to put this one on the list, but I'm excited for that one as well. Number 8 is a book that I just learned about recently, and I have no idea how I didn't know that this was a thing, but it's The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. Again, this doesn't have a synopsis yet, and it doesn't have a cover, but it does have like a little blurb thing. It says that 2 bisexual exes accidentally book the same European like food and wine tour, and they are so mad to see each other that they decide to have a competition about who can hook up the most, and they fall in love instead. Number 9 should be no surprise if you watched my favorite books of the year, but it's Do Me a Favor by Kathleen Yardley. Kathleen Yardley wrote one of my favorite books of last year. I cried in my favorites video. I don't know if it's set in the same world or what, but this is another Gen X romance, so we're following some older characters, and our heroine is moving to this new town. She's a ghostwriter for cookbooks, and she is recently widowed, and when she moves here, she meets this like really charismatic divorced guy who lives next door, who's also a handyman, and the two of them end up having this really cute neighbors romance. It sounds really, really sweet. I'm sure Kathleen Yardley will make me cry again because there is just something about her books that always just hits so hard. I think the way that she like leaves space for these characters, these older characters, to still like learn more about themselves and have these really amazing growth journeys is just so fantastic. I feel like in romance, we're constantly getting these like 20 to 24-year-olds in stories. And I think there's something so special about being able to see that characters of any age. And I'm just so glad that Kathleen Yardley keeps gifting us these books. Plus, this cover is freaking adorable. Number 10 is the next new to me author, and that is Island Witch by Amanda Jayatissa. This is a Sri Lankan horror story that I am so excited for. This gives me the same vibes as like Year of the Witching, where it surrounds a lot of female rage and like women getting their revenge against the people who have wronged them. We are following the daughter of a demon priest, and she is being like bullied and pushed around by a bunch of people in the community, and suddenly men are going missing into the woods, and everyone thinks that her family has something to do with it. It's supposed to be like a dark, eerie, gothic, demonic sort of story about her getting revenge on everyone, and I am here for it. The cover is stunning. I've heard amazing things about this author's like previous books, and so I have really high hopes. I've heard her writing is amazing. I have such a good feeling about this one. Number 11 is the sequel that I didn't know I desperately needed, and that is Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Singhu Mandana. I frickin' adore Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. It is, in my opinion, the most perfect, cozy, witchy fantasy romance. It is perfection. And the fact that we are getting another book in this world is everything. This one is following, I think, a character that we may have heard about or met in the first book. I can't entirely remember, but essentially she has lost her magic because her great aunt was passing away and she brought her back from death, which is not allowed. And so her magic was stripped from her, and now she is going to this like rural English countryside to help her aunt open up and run an inn, and she is hoping that while she is here, she can find a way to get her magic back. In the process of doing that, is falling in love with the icy historian who's begrudgingly helping her. It sounds like the inn also has this like eclectic group of people who stay there, so I'm sure there's gonna be another found family, and I cannot wait. Number 12 is You Should Be So Lucky by Cat Sebastian. Cat Sebastian is my favorite historical author, I think. She's one of the few historical romance authors that I pick up consistently, and it's because she just writes such different feeling historicals, in my opinion. She does a lot of different time periods, not just like from like the typical Victorian genre, but she as an author writes across multiple different historical times. This one is set in the same world as We Could Be So Good. It's set in the same world. This is set a few years later, so this is in the 1960s. That book was in the late 1950s, but we're following a professional baseball player who is having the worst season, and he ends up having to do this interview, like series of interviews, and this reporter works for the same like newspaper as we like met in that first book, but I don't think the stories or plots or anything are related other than that. The reporter is actually a reporter for the arts, but is somehow saddled with writing this sports article, and he is also having a very, very rough year, and the two of them start getting to know each other and opening up to each other, but at this time period, it was still very dangerous to be openly gay, especially somebody who is a professional athlete, and so they don't know how they could possibly make this romance work. And I'm sure it's going to be everything. Cat Sebastian's writing is everything. Her romances make me sob, not because they're sad, but because they're so damn beautiful. And then the last one that is by an author I have read from before is Not Another Love Song by Julie Soto. Julie Soto's debut book, Forget Me Not, was a shocking 5-star book of 2023, and I am very excited for this one. First of all, the sexual tension on this book is outrageous. Like, why why is the tension so real on this cover? This is a rivals to lovers romance following these two cellists who end up like having this really bad meeting. The hero doesn't recognize the heroine even though they've like played together in like multiple orchestras, and then she ends up getting his like coveted first chair seat, and the two of them end up having this rivals to lovers romance. I believe there's a competition, and as they start to fall for each other, they find themselves stuck in this PR competition. I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm sure it's going to be just as angsty and dramatic as that first Julie Soto book, and I'm here for it. And then the last three are all new to me authors. The first one is The Next Best Fling by Gabriela Gomez, and this is following a heroine whose best friend is getting married, but she has always been madly in love with him. And when she gets to their wedding, she ends up meeting his brother, who is an ex-NFL player, and he is in love with the bride. He is super, super drunk and about to confess his love to the bride on her wedding night, and the heroine intercepts him. The next day, when they show up together, everyone thinks that they are together now, and so they fake date with benefits. And it sounds fantastic. Number 15 is Flirty Little Secrets by Jessica Lepe. It was compared to Abbott Elementary, which is what intrigued me. But we're following this heroine who's kind of a hot mess in real life and just trying to keep her life together every single day, but has a secret online persona where she is this like very take charge advice columnist, and the new teacher is this guy who has always been like following her online and has a crush on her at school, and eventually realizes that they are the same person. The heroine, I believe, is Jewish as well, so this does have Jewish rep in it, and as soon as I heard Abbott Elementary and Pining Hero, I was immediately sold. And then the final book on this list is The Friendship Study by Ruby Barrett. This is an author that I had on my TBR last year, and I never ended up reading her debut book, but everything about this book sounds perfect. In my opinion, we're following a bi ex-firefighter who gets injured in a car accident and can no longer be a firefighter due to his disability. And as a way to cope with all of that and make a few extra dollars, he decides to enroll in this psych study called The Friendship Study. And there he meets our heroine, who is, I think, like new to town. And the two of them just so happened to have a one-night stand that ended in a very steamy moment between the two of them before they ghosted each other. And now they have to be friends for this psych study. Caveat is there cannot be any romantic involvement during the psych study, and so I assume they're going to find a workaround as friends with benefits. The heroine also has ADHD, so not only do we have queer and disability rep, but we also have neurodiversity rep. I just think it's going to be fantastic. So that is all 16 books. Let me know if you have added any of these to your TBR. Let me know what some of your 5-star predictions are for 2024. All of the books that I talked about will be linked down in the description box if you want to check out more about them. Thank you all so much for watching if you made it to the end of this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.